and I can't remember what we did after that. I, okay, if you've chosen to watch this video, you probably already know about Max Carlisle. The guy is a phenomenal guitar player. He's a bodybuilder. He seems to have a tremendous range of interests. And he was cool enough and kind enough to agree to this interview on a very fledgling YouTube channel. So, Max, thank you very much.
Hey, no problem. I'm happy to be here.
I wasn't going to ask this question until I was listening just the other day to the Schwarzschild Radius.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle of that too, and I thought, why isn't this on a Halloween album? Because it sounded so good, you know, and your playing is so clean. So I thought, well, what the hell? I'll ask this question. I don't hear particular influences in your playing, except that song made me go, oh, you know. A lot of your work makes me go, oh, in a really good way, you know. So I'm not just saying that song. So, boy, this got awkward all of a sudden. Anyway, so quick question. As a guitar player or as a musician in general, are there folks, you know, whose playing you like to emulate or adapt to your own style?
Yeah. I mean, of course, I do have a lot of influences. I think I think it's nice to hear that I don't sound too much like one particular player or anything like that. But I think maybe a reason for that is I have a lot of different influences, but I will only take little bits and pieces from each one. So I might take like rhythmic things from one player and then melodic things from another player. And so they're both influencing me directly. But when I combine those two things, it doesn't necessarily sound like either one of them.
Okay.
There are some technical things that I get from certain guitar players. Then there are like melodic things that I probably get from people who play other instruments or singers even.
Sure.
Something I try to do in my instrumental songs, like the Schwarzschild Radius, I try to have sort of a chorus, sort of a very distinctive melody that comes up a couple of times in the song that maybe could be sung just to come across in a way that's very accessible to people and accessible to people's ears. I have a lot of influences, but I don't have any one influence that I get everything from. It's a weird blend of things.
Okay. Speaking of the Schwarzschild Radius, and I have no idea how you're going to answer this, but when I listened to it, it seemed to me that in the middle of the composition, it felt the densest. So in that sense, to me, the song, and this sounds negative, but it's not. To me, it felt like the song was structured a bit like a black hole, with that event horizon far out to either side, and the middle being, the absolute densest part. Was that a conscious decision on your part?
I mean, that's a great observation, but it was not a conscious decision. I mean, I did one of my favorite compositional things in that song because the song starts and ends in one key, and then it goes to a lower key in that middle section, which makes the middle part of the section sound very, very heavy compared to the other parts of the song.
Okay.
It goes from G minor to D minor. I was taking an astronomy 101 class at the time.
That's awesome.
And that's why, that's where the inspiration for the title came from. But no, unfortunately, I wish I could. Maybe I'll just cheat and I'll say, yeah, that was all.
Well, you can say, well, it's intentional, just not conscious, right? Because you can have one without the other. You ask a question very much like this when you were at the Thomann Gearhead University thing. YouTube or online presence or touring, which for someone who is seeking to make a living through music, which do you feel is more important, or is that a call that one can even make?
Okay, this is a big thing, and I don't want to crush anybody's dreams here, but I might crush a few dreams here with this answer. Okay, if somebody's
trigger warning,
yeah, if someone's goal is to make a living, do YouTube. Like, it's an easy answer. Without question, that's the right decision. But if your goal is to be this pure artist that's going to bring your vision into the world, then by all means, start a band and go on tour. But what you have to know, what people have to understand, is that what is considered success is not what they think it is.
Okay.
If somebody starts a band, so like I'm talking like right now today, somebody starts a band or a solo project and they get out on tour, if they cannot lose money performing their music, that is success. YouTube, people can make tens of millions of dollars as a musician on YouTube. Lindsay Sterling is a great example. She's this girl who plays violin and dances. Okay?
Oh,
She
yes.
makes these
Yeah.
really, really complicated, really high production value music videos and everything. Goes on tour. The tours are a result of the YouTube stuff.
Wow.
Also, there's a much more clearly laid out path to a successful career when it comes to online stuff and YouTube and social media. That path, being a traditional musician, has just kind of disintegrated, because all of the things that you think are opportunities don't actually lead to anything that makes money, unfortunately. And I don't want to be like, oh, it's all about money and that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to, there are a lot of wonderful people that I know. They are great people, good character and everything, but they are out there and they have lots of success in what people would, like the classic vision of success. They're out there on tour. They're playing on a lot of albums. They're always working, right? Always busy. When they're not on tour, they're essentially homeless.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really common thing, more common than not. So yeah, I don't want to say that idea of the, being the rock star and, rolling around in the limousine and going up to your mansion and, you drive the Lamborghini into the swimming pool. I mean, I don't want to say that that's gone. I don't think anybody can count on that from the old traditional way of being a musician, a regular musician.
What you were saying about musicians working as to quote the name of a documentary that I watched, pretty recently, which I'm sure you've seen too, musicians working as hired guns, to me sounds exactly like what so many of the folks, in that documentary said. I mean, and those were all folks that, that seemed to be, from LA or from New York. So they're in actual musical centers. Here in the Midwest, I'm in Missouri. And when I was playing in bands, it was in Iowa and a little bit in Nebraska and in Missouri. And there's just nothing. There's absolutely nothing, beyond playing in bars, at least
Right.
in this area, And I mean, I was in radio at the time, and radio it pays so poorly that I made as much money, in my band every weekend as I did for my actual job. But
Sure.
that ain't much. So yes. Anyway, so that was all my saying. I hear what you're saying, and that notion of being a pure musician and getting in a band, and then it'll get huge, and everything is awesome. Clearly, that's always been for a very small minority, of folks who were able to find success that way. But that minority seems to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So anyway, that's a good response.
There's a really bizarre, I think just I guess the best way to say it is the transition from the old business model of record labels, and we're going to do artist development, and then we're going to promote, record the album, promote the album, the band goes out on tour, hopefully people buy the record or CD or whatever. The transition from that old business model to the new digital business model was such a chaotic transition and process, and it just didn't go very well for anybody. And so there are a lot of things that are still in place that still cling to the old business model that just don't apply anymore, but people still sort of think they do. Maybe I'm not describing that very well, but because of that, there's a lot of very parasitic and opportunistic business practices that prey on the up and coming musicians, you can find so many ways to spend money and so few ways to make money if you're in a band. I mean,
Yeah.
you hire somebody to get you the connection so you can get booked at a venue. And then when you're booked at the venue, you have to pre-buy 500 tickets or something like that.
Hmm.
And then when you're there, oh, and if you want to get a video of you on stage, then you have to pay the venue money to shoot a video of you, like little things like this. And then at some point, a manager will come in and say, hey, I can get you guys on an opening slot on this tour, right? This big tour that's going around. Be really good exposure for you guys, but it's going to cost you a bunch of money. You have to pay the headlining band in order to be
Yeah.
the opening act on the tour. And so you do this, let's say you do that, and then you're out on tour. None of it. So you can get all the way to doing an opening act on a national tour. You can get all the way there, and you have done nothing but spend money. And it's just, yeah. So I mean, I forget. I don't know who said it, but somebody, or there was an article recently saying that being a musician or playing in a band has become a rich person's hobby.
That
Right?
is a frightening and probably very accurate statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be somebody related or somebody in the band who can just bankroll all this stuff, and then you're out there and you're being a real musician. But I gotta apologize, this is getting to be a really downer interview here. I'm sorry about all this stuff.
Oh no, I like realism myself, and even the parts of reality that suck.
Yeah.
I think we have to be very honest about them. The closest that I ever got to being that kind of musician was 30 some years ago. I'm revealing that I'm older than dirt now. And I was in a band in southern Iowa, and some group, I don't recall who it was, might have been Loverboy, was coming through the area, and for whatever reason, their management, I don't know if it was their management or if it was the management of the clubs, wanted to book local acts to open for them. And so my band got that offer, and 3 of the 4 of us were all for it. And the 4th one had a frat party to go to, and he just couldn't miss that. So, right. So that,
priority.
but even while it was a possibility, we were being told, okay, your amplifier cabinets need to be larger, or your drum set needs to be a little more extensive. You guys have to put forth a certain appearance, and okay, you, Wayne, that's me. You have long hair, that's fine. I know who would think it now. But you, Steve, the drummer, your hair needs to be a lot longer. All that kind of stuff. This notion of you giving and giving and giving and giving in order to get those 20 or 30 minutes on stage in front of a lot of people. And in the end, you have to say, gosh, was that worth it? I spent my last penny buying an actual Marshall, stack.
Right.
What am I going to do with that now when I'm playing bars with 75 people? It's like, one of the things that I really like about your videos is sort of the real genuine way that you come across. My granddaughter, who was one of the lights of my life, I told her I was going to be interviewing you, and she's seen you on YouTube, and she said, is he a nice guy? I said, well, honey, I haven't met him, so I don't really know, but he sure seems like it. And in our interaction so far, you really do seem like a nice guy. You seem really genuine. It's like the Max Carlisle that we see reviewing guitars seems to be the Max Carlisle that just walks around in life. That genuine quality is really nice and a little too rare, I would think. Would you like to say a little bit about this? I mean, did you have to make conscious decisions to keep your cat out of the screen and to adopt a genuine persona?
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I can't say I had a real conscious decision about it. I mean, there were things that I thought about doing early on when I started my channel. I thought about having sort of a character that I would play, some sort of alter ego, something like that. But it seemed like I had, it could hurt me a lot more than it could help me. There were a lot of ways that could go wrong. I mean, it's just so much easier for me to just talk to people as I normally would. And I think it's better for everybody. And I want to talk to people as I normally would, and have like YouTube ends up being sort of a one-way conversation most of the time, but I want to have still like a real, genuine conversation.
Excuse my cat. Yes. Yeah, I know what you mean. My day job, I'm a college professor. Well, technically, I'm an associate professor of English, and I know folks who have teaching personas that they adopt. And sometimes for very good reason. I've tried to do that, but for better or worse, my persona in the classroom is pretty much the same persona that I have, say right now. It is a lot easier than having to sort of remember how you're supposed to act when you get into a certain situation. Well, man, I've kept you on the line here for over an hour, and I'm feeling kind of guilty about it. Like I should let you go. I'd like to steal a move from Sammy Hagar's interview thing that he does. Would you mind if I asked you a brief lightning round of responses?
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see what I got here. Strat or Paul?
I'm going to go with a Paul, Les Paul.
Okay.
Mostly because of the pickups, because I like humbuckers.
Okay. All right. Analog or digital?
Digital. I'm a digital guy.
Okay. All right. Motorhead or Sabbath?
Sabbath.
Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley?
Paul Stanley. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
Okay.
Last one. A space exploration. Manned or unmanned?
It has to be manned. It has to be manned. I've heard all the arguments. I think I've heard all the arguments. And there are some very practical arguments in favor of robotic exploration and so forth. But we need stuff that inspires people. And we need stuff that everybody can get behind and focused on. And, the Cassini probe, for all of the wonderful science that it has done, how many people know about that? How many people get excited about that? A few people get really excited about it, but they're a tiny percentage of the overall population. But if we're going to the moon, if we're going to the Mars and there's people stepping off the lander, everybody's going to be excited about that. So that's, I think, one of the most beneficial things of space exploration is how it can unite people, how everybody can get behind it. Right. And if there aren't people involved, I don't think you get that.
That is a great answer. And that idea of some activity or some discovery or whatever that gets everybody's attention, Democrats, Republicans, Whigs, Tories, whatever, Strat people, Paul people, that all, can get behind that. Well, all except the conspiracy theorists can get behind that one big cool thing that's sort of inspiring to the culture. Max, Mr. Carlisle, we'll call this the sort of official end of the interview. Thank you very much. You're an interesting guy, and I really appreciate your time.